I'm here with Butch Trucks, the legendary drummer from the Allman Brothers.
Oh, no. Yeah. I'm a legend in my own mind.
You're a legend in a lot of people's minds, Butch. And we are backstage here at the Howard Theater in Washington, D.C. before your show with Butch Trucks and the Freight Train Band.
That's what it's called.
Yeah, tell me how that came about.
You know, I never really figured it out. I know that probably 20, 25 years ago, Dickie Betts we were editing a show, and Dickie's introducing the band, and he introduces everybody, and he goes, "Hey, back there on the drums, we have Butch Trucks. We call him the Freight Train." It's the first time I'd ever heard it, you know. And if they were calling me the Freight Train before that, I didn't know it.
Yeah.
But since then, I've heard it many, many times, and so we started this band, and a friend of mine came up with the idea, say, well, let's call it the Freight Train Band.
Cool. We interviewed Damon Fowler a few times, and how did you guys get hooked up together?
Through Barry Oakley, yeah. He and Barry have been playing together for a long time, and they live together over around Sarasota, and you know, I had already done one big concert up in somewhere in New York with Vaylor, my son, who's that cute little kid on the cover of Brothers and Sisters.
Yep.
Now he's not a cute little kid anymore. He's butt ugly, but he plays a hell out of a guitar. And he's not butt ugly either. He's my son, and I love him dearly. And what was I saying? And it was Vaylor and Bruce Katz.
Right.
And we brought Heather. I had run into Heather down playing a gig in Tallahassee, Florida.
Right.
And I invited her to come up and sing for us. And so the first show that the Freight Train played, it was Bruce and me, Vaylor, Barry Oakley, and Heather.
And you had Lara, what's her, Schwass? Is that her last name, playing with you the other
Oh, no, that was just the last gig.
Just the one show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, she did sit in that night.
Okay, I thought
she played just one song. She just did Liz Reed, you know.
So,
she got up there and God, boy, did she tear that up. In fact, it's either go right now or as soon as this is over, go to YouTube and look up the Freight Train Band.
Yep.
God, where do we play? In some place in New York. Elizabeth Reed.
Yeah, smaller clubs for you. I mean, you spent most of your career playing huge venues, and now you're playing relatively small clubs. This isn't a small club, but...
Well, you know, I'm playing music, and I'm playing music with really, really good players. So it's incredible, you know, if we only have 5 people out there, you know. And the only reason, I'll tell you this, it's something that I learned a long time ago. Duane Allman, this is the best story I can tell you about the type of person Duane Allman was. Because Duane and I had played in a band about a year before he came to Jacksonville to do the Allman Brothers.
Right.
And that band fell apart. Greg had to go back to LA, and he was under contract, and Duane went to Muscle Shoals, luckily, because out of that came Hey Jude, Wilson Pickett, and Aretha Franklin, and Joe Tex, and you know, all of that great playing that Duane did with all those rednecks of Muscle Shoals. I mean, you know, he came in with that hair down to here, with that screaming guitar, and he turned those guys on. And but he got very bored with it. It was very much like a 9-to-5 gig. In fact, all the other guys in, you know, that you hear all those Muscle Shoals, you know, and you think you know, these are real funky black guys, you know, that they're playing real funk. And these guys are white rednecks, you know, and they would go to work every day, and they just happened to be, you know, really good at playing rhythm and blues and playing funk. And some of the best R&B came out of Muscle Shoals. And Dwayne went up there thinking that he was going to really be, you know, playing with some very hip guys, but you know, these guys would come and they'd do their work all day long, and then, you know, they'd go home and their whole thing was who's got the newest television and who got a new Corvette and who got, you know, just like any other gig. And for a guy like Dwayne Allman, that don't last long. So he stayed there 4 or 5 months and said, yeah, he was bored stiff. So he headed to Jacksonville and started putting together a band. And where was I going?
You were going to tell me the best story you could tell me about Dwayne.
Oh, so I was in that band with Dwayne.
Right.
And back then, you know, I was a good drummer, but I was very, very insecure. And when Dwayne showed up at my door in Jacksonville, Florida, and behind him was J-Mo. And here's another funny story. I mean, I grew up a middle-class white Jacksonville Southern Baptist, you know, and I'm very lucky because even though my dad was a farmer from north of Birmingham, Alabama, I never was, you know, there was never any racism in our house. Now we didn't mingle with black folks, but I never heard anything derogatory.
Sure.
Never. And, you know, and I'll always appreciate that, you know, because that was not his upbringing.
Right.
Because, I mean, one of the few times that I heard a derogatory term, it came out of his big brother who was sitting next to us at a Jacksonville Braves game. And, you know, he said something like, and my dad did his best to cover up, you know, because, you know, back then it was, you know, it was segregated, and the whites were all up in the grandstands behind home plate,
right.
And they had bleachers over there for the black folks. And my dad's big brother is sitting next to him, and he said, "Boy, look at all the coons here tonight." And I looked up at my dad, I said, "What's coon?" And, you know, he didn't go far enough, but at least he said, "Oh, it's those animals that climb up those telephones." Okay. So I never had that connection.
Right.
You know, and I'm so glad of that. But that being said, in like I say, a white middle-class Jacksonville, Florida, so I didn't have a lot of interaction with black folks. And here comes Dwayne, and behind him is this muscle-bound, I mean, throw out to here, muscles like this, tank top on, a bear tooth necklace around him and everything, and he's just standing there kind of frowning. In fact, that's what we used to call J-Mo, was frown. He loved Robitussin AC, so he would chug down a bottle of AC and say, frown all the time. So we called him J-Mo King Nod and Frown, and that became Frown.
Never heard that.
But so anyway, Dwayne being Dwayne, he comes in, and he was on the way over to where Barry and Dickie were living. They were in a band called The Second Coming, and they were across town. So basically, he was finding a place for J-Mo to stay. So he just left him at my house and left. And up to that point, J-Mo hadn't said a word. And so Dwayne leaves, And here J-Mo's sitting on the couch going like this, really frowning and looking like he's looking, and I'm going, oh my God, a militant N-word.
Yeah.
He's going to kill me. And 45 years later, we are the best of friends. I mean, I love that man. He is so kind, so gentle.
He never killed you.
And the greatest thing in the world that he taught me was that people are people. It doesn't matter what the color. I mean, he taught it to me in here. You know, it wasn't like somebody just talking. You know, I lived with him, and so anyway, Dwayne started putting the band together, and at first he had signed his contract with Phil Walden and Capricorn and up in Macon, Georgia. And their first idea was to do a trio, the Dwayne Allman Trio. And he took Barry Oakley and J-Mo, and they went to Muscle Shoals. And you may have heard some of those with Dwayne singing, and Dwayne heard himself singing, and he said, well, this ain't gonna work. So he came back to Jacksonville, and we started these every weekend. We'd have jams. Everybody in town would show up. Everybody had set up, and everybody knew what he was there for. Right. So we were all wanted to be in this band because, I mean, Dwayne was just incredible. And J-Mo kept telling him, he said, Butch is the guy you want. That's the guy you want. You know, he was hearing all these other drummers, and he said, this is the guy. He's the guy. Right. But Dwayne knew that I had that I was introverted, and if things weren't really going, I would kind of pull back. And he knew that I could play drums, but he wasn't going to have somebody with that kind of attitude on stage with him. Right. You know, because I mean, Dwayne was just the opposite, you know. He was straight ahead. God, I mean, he straight ahead exactly. I mean, Dwayne was, if you've ever read Faust by Goethe, I mean, there are a lot of versions of Faust, but Goethe's Faust was a guy who wanted to experience everything life had to offer. Good, bad, didn't matter. And his deal with Mephistopheles was, as soon as I tell you I'm in a place where I am content and I'm happy, you can have my soul. Dwayne was that way. When I first met him, he was eating Black Beauties like they were going out of style. I mean, just like this. Until the day that he realized it was messing with his music. And he stopped and never did it again. He did that with pretty much everything.
Because the music was the most important thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Dwayne had this laser, you know. Yeah. But he was also living, you know. He was one of, I mean, Dwayne dropped out of high school in the 10th grade. And he was better educated than most college graduates I know. Because he read constantly. So why were you? He and I used to go fishing all the time, and I turned him on to Tolkien. His daughter's name is Galadriel. You know, and we really got into that, and then we moved on to, he read somewhere where Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, said that, you know, life without music wouldn't be worth living, and Dwayne said, hey, anybody that would say that, I got to read it. And I knew enough about Nietzsche to know that was pretty dense stuff. Yeah. But I didn't know enough about him to know that Also Sprach Zarathustra was the densest thing he ever wrote. So we went and got that book and started reading it, and then we'd go fishing and we would sit there, and he and I were the only two guys in the band that read. And so anytime we would get somewhere and we'd have a day off, we'd go buy a couple of cheap rods and reels, and we'd go find a lake, and we would sit there and we'd talk for an hour or so, and then scatter around and go, you know, fish. And we'd talk about books.
Did you catch any fish?
Oh, we caught all kinds of fish.
Okay, so you were good.
In fact, my memory, I refused to go in and see him in his casket. In fact, it was years before I even went to his tomb.
Really?
Because I did not want that memory.
Yeah.
The memory I have of him is the day that he caught a 7-pound bass down at the end of the lake where we used to fish, and his skanking legs going like this. He's got, I got a lunker, you know?
That's a big ass bass.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So why?
Well, it cost me a dinner.
Because he got the bigger fish?
No, we had a bet every year that at the end of the year, whoever caught the biggest bass
Oh yeah, we'd have to buy.
would have to treat the other one and his date to a really big dinner. So anyway, I'll get to the point. So one day we're doing this jam, and I'm up there playing, and we're doing the shuffle, and it's not going anywhere. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they're all looking at me. So I started pulling back. And Dwayne whipped around and stared me in the eye and went, played this lick like, damn it, come on. And I went, and then he did it again. And after the third time, there's hundreds of people sitting around, and he's showing me up.
Yeah.
Very obviously showing me up.
Yeah.
So I got pissed.
And?
So he went, and I went. He went, I went. And I mean, we literally got into a musical fist fight, And after a while, he just backed up and smiled and went, there you go.
The freight train.
And it's like he reached inside and flicked a switch. And this thing went off, and the light went off, and I said, Butch, you can play. Quit apologizing. And from that day to this, I play with as much power. I'm 68 years old, and I'll take on any 20-year-old punk out there that wants to come up.
Oh, and you'll put them in their place too.
Well, I don't know, but I guarantee you they won't play louder than me.